News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
It's now 5:05 as we've officially made it through the first day of the work week on We'll Feel Right with your local news. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful afternoon for us. I'll get to your weather forecast coming up in just a minute as we head into hour 2 of KVNU's For the People show. Well, in the news, a lithium-ion battery from an e-bike reportedly exploded Friday night, and that's what sparked a fire inside a 5-story apartment building in Salt Lake City that left one person seriously injured. Now, firefighters say they responded to the building at around 7:30. Firefighters said they found flames engulfing the lower-level apartment unit where the battery had failed. Now, crews say they were quickly able to bring the blaze under control and evaluated 4 patients at the scene. 3 individuals were treated and released, while that 4th person was hospitalized in serious condition. Now, fire officials said that the fire is a reminder, and they urge the public to follow several safety guidelines when charging lithium-ion devices. Now, they recommend that you use only the manufacturer's charging cord. Also, avoid charging devices on flammable surfaces like couches and beds, and disconnect batteries immediately once they are fully charged. Well, a tragic accident yesterday. A renowned extreme athlete and an unidentified 50-year-old man died while tandem base jumping near Moab. Now, the Grand County Sheriff's Office confirmed the death of Moab resident Andrew Lewis, who had widely been known online as Sketchy Andy. Now, Lewis owned Base Jump Moab and had also co-founded Moab Swingers. Now, an experienced base jumper with over 4,000 jumps, he had gained fame slacklining alongside Madonna during the 2012 Super Bowl halftime show. Meanwhile, the second victim died at the scene. Now, Lewis's business partner, Jimmy Peterson, called the incident a terrible accident, expressing condolences to the victims' families. Now, former clients mourned the loss, recalling how Lewis was compassionate and had an ability to calm their fears. Now, authorities say they are continuing to investigate. And finally, the Wasatch County Library had to be evacuated on Saturday near Heber after a suspicious bottle with an attached warning note was discovered outside. Now, Heber City Police said they responded to the scene after a caller had reported finding the bottle, which carried a note stating that it was intended for law enforcement and should not be touched. Now, a police canine later gave a positive indication for potential explosive materials, which prompted officials to clear the library and the surrounding area. Now, a bomb squad from the Salt Lake area was called in to assist, and technicians said they utilized a robot to safely address and dispose of the item. Now, police conducted a sweep of the perimeter and found no additional hazards. The library and surrounding area was later reopened, but the circumstances surrounding the incident remain under investigation, and so far officials have not yet disclosed what was inside the bottle. Well, we're going to enjoy clear skies through the rest of the afternoon as temperatures have been in the mid-80s today, and it looks like this may be the coolest temperatures we're going to see all week. As tonight will drop into the low 50s, tomorrow mid to low 90s, and we're going to stay in the low 90s through the rest of the week. Looks like Friday we'll finish it off at around 94. Then a little cooler weather coming on Saturday and Sunday when we could see a small chance of some rain for the second half of the weekend. And weather this hour is brought to you by Discount Tire. Yes, summer travel is definitely here, and that's why you need safe, reliable tires today. Get into Discount Tire now. You can save on your favorite brands. Plus, they also offer layaway, no credit check financing, and 12 months, no interest. It's at Discount Tire and Automotive in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield. I'll have another check of local news coming up at the bottom of the hour as we have more of KVNU's For the People show with Jason Williams on the way next.
Weeds don't take the summer off, and now, neither does Logan Extermination. Their new specialty lawn spray isn't temperature sensitive, so it keeps fighting weeds even during the hottest days of summer. For just $55, they'll treat up to 1,000 square feet, targeting tough weeds like dandelions, thistle, and the king of all weed kings, morning glory. Call Logan Extermination today at 435-752-8450. That's 752-8450. Online at loganextermination.net, a division of Anderson Seed and Garden.
As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU, 102 FM, 610 AM. Also on the new KVNU mobile app.
Celebrate world-class majestic music and spectacular live theater with Utah Festival Opera and Musical Theater in Logan. From the revolutionary passion of the Broadway musical 1776 to the comic adventures of the Pirates of Penzance, the heartfelt and intimate The Last 5 Years, and the snappy wit of Scalia Ginsburg with Trial by Jury. Don't miss laughter, inspiration, and the power of live performance. Utah teachers and students get free tickets. UtahFestival.org. That's UtahFestival.org.
It's a heartache, nothing but a heartache.
Sad news about Bonnie Tyler. You've heard during the news breaks there, she was listed as comatose, no longer in a coma, but apparently things not looking great from what the family is reporting. So just a very memorable voice. All right. Getting right back into it here in hour 2 of today's show. Normally we do this once a month on Thursdays, our spotlight on Logan Schools. But due to a scheduling conflict last week, we bumped it to today. And the nature of our conversation centers around actually a question that came in from a listener that a listener wanted to know what kind of projects get underway in the summer months when the students aren't in classrooms, and how those projects inform the upcoming school year. We've not previously spent a lot of time on, I mean, we've touched on in ways, but not really dedicated a full hour to it. That is, really kind of at the heart of education and growing up and being a parent and being an educator and, young people deciding on, making decisions that affect their future and all of that. So I'm excited to jump right into this. Here in the studio with us today, we have Superintendent of the Logan District, Frank Schofield. And this week, Frank has brought a friend. He's brought with him Tami Curtis. Tami is a clinical assistant professor at Utah State University in the social work area, with expertise in clinical social work for individuals, couples, families, trauma and resilience, and school social work. And that's the topic we're going to be focused on for the spotlight this hour. Whichever one of you wants to take this one, but how do, in the setting of a school or educating people in the K through 12 world, what does school social work mean?
Oh, Tami can give way more detail on that than I can. So I'm just going to give a little more intro to Tami. Tami first started affecting our district probably 5 years ago. She was working down in Washington County School District at that time, but Tami was the one who really helped us get our wellness rooms in our schools established and started us as a district on the path of better understanding the role of emotional regulation and dysregulation in kids' behavior and in their learning and not only their academic success in school, but their self-perception as successful students and students who belonged in school. So that start of that conversation has led to a number of other things, including all the conversations that we've had here on the station regarding student belonging and what we do to help students feel that school is a place where they're supposed to be and they fit in and they're part of the community. So Tami has had a huge impact just on our district so far with the interactions that we had with her surrounding wellness. Now as she helps coordinate with our school social work interns, she continues to have that impact working with our principals and staff at our schools on addressing the mental health needs that help our students be successful in school. So I'm thrilled that she was willing to join me here tonight and have those conversations. And she talks about these issues with far more clarity and generally more passion than I do. So I'm glad that she's here to take those questions.
I'm sincerely excited to have this conversation because for the longest time, there seemed to be an awareness about the challenges in this arena, in this world, especially as far as young people and their development goes. But very few steps not that anyone avoided taking steps. No one really knew what to do. And so for a lot of people listening right now who are parents, they probably remember growing up in a world in which there was a lot of, it's tough out there. And then good luck, by the way, decide what you want to do for college. and we're moving beyond a lack of options, or we've moved beyond a lack of options. Is it fair to say we have at this point?
I think so. And I think we still have a ways to go, but I do. And I really appreciate that intro. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be able to do what you love. And I love social work. And I didn't see that present in my own education growing up. And it was interesting in my early career, I was doing inpatient, outpatient residential therapy for my career. And what I found is that a lot of the clients that I was working with were asking me, how come they don't teach this stuff in schools? Like,
really?
This is what I needed to learn. This is what's made the difference in my life. I wish I would have known this 20 years ago. And I couldn't agree more. And I felt like I was working on the wrong end of things.
Really?
and
Makes sense, though.
And I loved that work, but it just really opened my eyes and it really opened my mind to how can we get ahead of this? How can we get upstream? Because I think you're right. I think a lot of us feel like, yeah, we didn't know what to do. And so it was an interesting point in my career when I decided to pivot to schools. And the reason I did is because of my own child who was actually having some struggles in schools. And I found myself working with the school quite frequently and just considered, wow, I wonder if I could possibly help. Surely I'm not the only parent that is going through this with their children. And maybe I have something to offer because I've spent all this time and I've worked in this field for a good amount of time that I felt like maybe I had something that I could offer. And that's kind of how that started. But I did have to go to St. George. Social work in schools is not something that Utah has prioritized in a big way.
Sure.
So there are certain districts, more so on the Wasatch Front, that have had social work in their schools for a while.
Okay.
But as our rural areas, it really came along a lot further down. So I started in St. George in 2017. And my role there was actually in special ed.
Really?
And I was hired to work with more behavior needs. And I started doing trauma-informed training. I started really wanting to educate everyone on what does that mean? How do we look at people as not that something's wrong with them, but what have they been through? What have their experiences been that this is how they're showing up? These are the skills that they maybe need to work on. And that lens is really what opened the door to helping people realize, wow, what happens to us really does affect our brain development. It affects our body. And that means that it affects how we show up, whether we're coming every day to teach these kids or whether we're the students who are showing up in the schools every day.
That is, I spoke a long time ago. We spoke with an author here on the show with a background in social work who was writing about the effect of food insecurity on children at a young age. And I remember she told us this line that stuck out in our interview. She said it's less an issue of focusing on each individual child struggling with something and more about creating an environment at the school. Is that kind of a good way to characterize what you're doing with Logan Schools?
Yes, I love that. Actually, that's huge. I think that when we look at mental health, individual mental health, it is such a part of biology and environment. It's nature and nurture. And, historically, if I think of my experience in schools, I felt like they were pretty punitive. It was,
Sure.
better be on time to class and better not miss and better just walk in line because I don't want to get sent to the principal's office. I don't want to get in trouble. That was kind of the lens that I had. And I knew we had school counselors. I knew that was there, but that's not what I remember about school. And so I think that for me, when I started having these struggles with my son, it opened my eyes to go, wow, not everyone has. And I guess I had a good experience at school, but my son was not. He was really not happy to go. I as a mom, it really tore my heart out to see him in pain about going to school.
It was an unpleasant experience for him to.
Yes. And so how do you create that environment like we talked about earlier, the sense of belonging, how important that is that kids know that they belong at school. And I think that's an area that we really need to focus on.
Sure.
Not everyone automatically feels like they belong at school. And then if you extend to the parents, not all of them felt like they belonged at school either. And so this can be generational, and it's something that we can definitely change in the environment, is creating this safe place for kids. Because if you think about it, there are so many other places our kids might prefer to be or could be that aren't going to be the best places for them to be and spend their time. Sure. So how do we create that inviting environment that says, we love you, we want you here, we care about you, and we're going to teach you things that will help you throughout your whole life, no matter what field you're going into. Sure. Because a lot of kids don't know yet.
Yeah. And some of us didn't know until our junior year of college.
Yeah.
But this is fascinating. And as we've discussed here on the show with Frank and in other interviews, we know these things. We know that a sense of belonging, feeling like you're a part of a community, especially at the high school level, improves grades, improves social skills, attendance, the likelihood that a student will go on to further their education even after high school. And this is a unique approach to it, approaching the whole thing from a social work perspective. Again, here in our studio for our Spotlight on Logan Schools this month, we have Superintendent Frank Schofield, who is, the person who makes this happen each week, I should say. I'm just here to talk. And Tami Curtis of Utah State University and the coordinator of the school social work program will keep the conversation going on the other side of this quick break.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU. Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology is Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aid technology. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Danes, where he can customize a hearing improvement program to meet your needs. Call 753-HEAR or visit cachehearing.com.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Happy Father's Day from the entire staff at Logan River Golf Course. It's time once again for our annual Punch Pass and men's shirt sale. Buy any 10 or 20 Punch Pass and receive a voucher for 9 holes of golf at Logan River. Buy any men's shirt, excluding sale shirts, and redeem the voucher for 9 holes of golf. Come down to Logan River and check out all the great gifts, items for Dad. Logan River Golf Course. Play well, play fair, play fast.
We're here with Chuck, founder of Dollar Loan Center. It looks like you have some fancy new locations around Logan and Ogden.
Yes, sir. We're right next to McDonald's on US 89 in Logan and in Ogden on 12th between Lincoln and Washington. We dig this area. But the best part is saving the drive altogether and applying from the comfort of your couch at don'tbebroke.com.
I kind of like stopping by.
Good call, and it's really worth the drive. We've been processing our $5,000 short-term loans over 28 years, and our customers just love doing business with the DLC. In nearly every instance, we're around half the cost of the payday and title lenders.
Dollar Loan Center lends up to $5,000 in minutes. Stop by in Logan, Ogden, or any of our 15 Utah locations to meet our real friendly staff. You can also apply over the phone or online at don'tbebroke.com.
Licensed by the Utah Department of Financial Institutions. Subject to approval, limitations may apply. See website for details.
KVNU's For the People. Our Spotlight on Logan Schools underway. Here in the studio with us, we have Superintendent of the Logan School District, Frank Schofield, and a special guest joining Frank and I this week, Tami Curtis, Clinical Assistant Professor at Utah State University with a background in social work, working with individuals, couples, families, working with topics of trauma, resilience, and what we're talking about specifically here today, school social work. Creating an environment at the schools to basically open up more doors, reduce obstacles to kids getting their educations, which is why they're there, improving their own opportunities for the future, and then, of course, just feeling like they belong there at school, which is a part of all of that. This is, I would assume this has to be fulfilling work, but at the same time, you are dealing, Tami, with a lot of things that would be tragic to even recognize for a lot of people. Is that one of the reasons that we're so kind of slow getting to this in schools in Utah?
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. I'll just give you an example. Tonight, we're doing a free screening of the documentary called Resilience, The Biology of Stress and the Science of Hope. This is a documentary that was produced in 2016, and it highlights some research that was done way earlier in 1998. And this was called the ACE study, and ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And in 1998, Centers for Disease Control brought two physicians together because they were interested in looking at how trauma histories, how early adversity was affecting people's physical health, because it was showing up in their offices as they were treating their patients. And they kept seeing these common threads and going, oh my goodness, I wonder if this has something to do with why they're experiencing these physical ailments. So they did this study, 17,000 people belonging to a health plan in Kaiser Permanente Health. And what they found is that ACEs were common in this group, and that the higher the ACE score was out of 10, the more risk was associated with those social problems, those health problems that people were experiencing. And the thing about it is, in 1998, when this research came out, people didn't want to talk about it. People actually said, I don't think this is right. I think you did this wrong.
Really?
And they had to redo all of their numbers, and they said, no, actually, this is true. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And I think because it's uncomfortable. People don't want to talk about the hard things. It's much more comfortable for us to just pretend everything's okay, and it allows us to go about our daily lives and, not have the hiccups. So while it's uncomfortable, that's also not the best approach.
Sure. Because we've seen the same thing when it comes to teens and drug abuse, teens and suicide ideation, teens and every time we seem to learn this lesson that pretending it isn't an issue doesn't do a lot of good.
Not at all.
That is, so how do you, I'm jumping ahead here a bit, but the curiosity is getting to me. How do you practically apply some of these concepts and some of this research in a classroom or a school setting?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is what I had to figure out.
Really?
Yes. So
I imagine that wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy. This was all new for me to navigate. For example, when I was hired in Southern Utah for that school district, it was the first year that they had ever hired a licensed clinical social worker.
Really?
So it was their first opportunity opening their doors to social work, and it was my first opportunity to work in a school. So this was a huge learning curve for me to say, okay, how do I take all of my clinical experience and everything that I've learned in the therapy room? How do I apply that in a setting like a school? And down there we have 50 schools, we have 33,000 kids, we cover a large geographical area, and it felt really overwhelming.
Sure.
So the first thing I wanted to do is educate. And I think that's the first thing we do. We have to educate. We have to help people understand that adversity does affect us. So we can't ignore that fact. And what we'll see in the documentary tonight, there's a real before and after effect of learning this. Once you know this, you can't unknow it. And once you know it, you want to do something about it. So it's very inspiring and kind of compelling in that way. And so educating people to understand that connection, I think, is the first step. Okay. And then that second step is, okay, now that we know this, now what? Well, we know from research that resilience is built. This is surprising for a lot of people who maybe want to complicate things or think there's some scientific, rocket science type application here.
Which we do sometimes to excuse our own not stepping up, right?
Right, yeah. And things feel overwhelming. They feel complicated. But the reality is, from all of the research, when they boil it down to say, okay, how do people really overcome adversity in their lives? It boils down to their relationships. And they found that for children specifically, the presence of a stable, caring adult is what is the biggest resilience builder, the biggest factor. That's the lever.
That makes sense.
Right? But it's so much more simple than we think. You know, we tend to think, oh, we need all these things, or, as parents, like, oh, I don't take my kids to Disneyland enough.
Sure.
It's like, that's
which every kid will agree with,
right.
regardless of their experience at school.
Yeah. Right? Isn't that great? Can we go to Disneyland again? But it's actually, those aren't the things. It really comes down to, do you have a connection with your child?
So something as simple as good in-home communication could be a resilience builder for the child.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating. This is
a child feeling confident in their parents' love for them, that
Sure.
their love isn't dependent on was I compliant or did I do these things, that relationship is there regardless of roadblocks that you might run into and things like that. But so what are the ways we communicate that? How do we build those connections? And then in a school setting, what are the things that you do as a classroom teacher, as the lunch lady, as the principal, et cetera, to send that same message? How do I help a child know when they come into the building, the doors of the school,
Sure.
they're surrounded by a whole bunch of adults who are stable, who care about them, who are consistent? How do we communicate that throughout the environment? And that alone helps build resilience in kids.
And now you've seen this, Frank, speaking with educators, coming directly out of classrooms. You've seen this improve academic performance and attendance and all of those things. We've talked about this before.
Completely. Right? If a student knows that at school they're going to be surrounded by adults who care about them, they go to school. If they know that there's some place where a person wants their success, they pay more attention. They learn better. Our minds are more open. We're more relaxed. We're not as stressed, and we're not dealing with all these other things that tend to cloud or get in the way of our own performance.
Sure.
When we feel cared about and we feel loved and we feel safe, those barriers just start to slip away. I'm using my hands a lot with this one, but they just dissolve, and all of a sudden we're able to perform.
And again, this sitting here talking about it, it's easy to say, well, yeah, duh. I mean, we know this, right? But as you said, Tami. Sometimes there's a tendency to think, I didn't take my kids to Disneyland enough, and you should take your kids to Disneyland. It's if you can, if you have the means, right? But it's not that. Resilience is something that comes from an ability to communicate and connect with other human beings that is easiest learned in the home, in the child's relationship with the parent, as we've learned here. So. We're talking about where social work from Utah State University plays a role in educating educators, in setting some policies for overall community standards at schools, all of this with a goal of keeping kids in school, enjoying school, taking away something from school that improves their lives as they age into adulthood. The whole point of the process, right? Our guests, again, Superintendent Frank Schofield and social work researcher at Utah State University, Tami Curtis. More to come after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. The family of a 56-year-old West Valley City man are mourning after he died Saturday following a deep water diving incident at Bear Lake. Now, the Rich County Sheriff's Office identified that victim as Greg Jonas. Emergency personnel said they responded to the lake's Cisco Beach area at around 1:45. Now, Jonas was diving with a group in 90 to 100 feet of water when the incident occurred, according to sheriff's officials. Now, state park rangers, county medical units, and deputies responded to the scene. An Intermountain Life Flight helicopter transported Jonas to Logan Regional Hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. Now, authorities have not released details regarding what caused the incident. However, the death marks the second fatality at Bear Lake in a week. It was back on June 6th that 17-year-old Gideon Rolas of Arizona drowned near Ideal Beach after falling off of a paddleboard while not wearing a life jacket. Well, in other news, a Utah Senate committee voted unanimously last week to advance 6 high-profile nominees, including prominent banking, real estate, and political leaders to the Utah Housing Corporation's Board of Trustees. Now, the nominees include Zions Bank Corporation Chairman and CEO Harris Simmons, along with former Utah Senate President Wayne Niederhauser and Natalie Gocknauer, who is the director of the University of Utah's Kim C. Gardner Policy Institute. Now, Governor Spencer Cox also nominated Clark Ivory, CEO of Ivory Homes, Danielle Larkin, a St. George council member, and Dan Lofgren, who's founder of Cowboy Partners. Now, the independent state entity is tasked with addressing Utah's ongoing affordable housing crisis. Now, if confirmed by the full Senate, the trustees will be serving 2- and 4-year terms to oversee resources like first-time home buyer programs and also housing tax credits. Now, Niederhauser has previously told lawmakers that affordable housing in Utah will never naturally happen without targeted state intervention. And finally, a Kaysville man is $25,000 richer after solving a series of riddles and locating a hidden treasure chest in the foothills above Farmington on Saturday. Now, Bobby Smalley discovered the chest at around 7:30 near Flag Rock and Patsy's Mine, ending the annual summer treasure hunt that is organized every year by Dave Klein and John Maxim. Now, Smalley said that a late-night breakthrough Friday night had led him to map out historical sites in the canyon that matched clues in the contest poem. Now, after starting out on his hike at about 5:30, Smalley said he located the prize that was hidden beneath a deliberate stack of rocks and were shielded by scrub oak. Now, he had spent weeks conducting multiple unsuccessful searches in neighboring canyons before deciphering the final clues. Now, Smalley said that it was pretty exciting, and he noted that he had frequently hiked that trail with his daughter. Well, it's going to be some great weather through the rest of the week to get out and enjoy the mountains around us, as we're going to continue to see clear skies. Temperatures tonight going to drop into the low 50s. Then tomorrow we'll be back into the low 90s. We'll stay in the low 90s for Wednesday, high 80s coming on Wednesday, or on Thursday, make that, and then mid-90s expected for Friday. Now, we will see a little cooler weather coming for the weekend, and that's going to bring some possible clouds and maybe even a little bit of rain by Sunday. We'll continue to see if that storm actually materializes. And it's Bell Sculpt that brings you weather here at the bottom of the hour. If you're looking to get rid of stubborn fat for good, give their bountiful office a call at 801-335-5388. They can help sculpt areas like your abs, arms, and thighs. It's Bell Sculpt. Get more information by visiting their website, bellsculpt.fm. And I'm Will Feelright for KVNU News.
ABC News, I'm Stephanie Officer. California emergency crews responding to a reported B-52 crash near Edwards Air Force Base this afternoon. ABC's Luis Martinez.
It's unclear exactly which one of these B-52s was involved in this crash, whether it was one of the operational B-52s, there are about 72 in the fleet, or whether this is the one that was stationed by the Air Force there at Edwards Air Force Base to carry out flight testing.
The massive UFC claw is still on the White House lawn, a reminder of last night's UFC fight, meant to celebrate America's 250th birthday. This also happened to fall on President Trump's 80th birthday and Flag Day. ABC's Mary Bruce.
4,000 spectators watching just steps from the residence. Fighters entering the octagon from the diplomatic reception room. That's a space typically used to greet foreign dignitaries and escorted by Medal of Honor recipients. The Indian Treaty Room converted into a locker room.
This is ABC News.
This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. We are now Alera Group. Need home or auto insurance? What about your business, general liability, and workers' comp? You have employees? What about their health benefits? Our team now works with more carriers, more options. You get national strength with the same small town team. Come in, same friendly faces, same local office. Or call 435-752-0101.
Make laundry a snap with the large load washers and dryers at Mount Logan Laundry. Rather than 8 to 10 loads at home, get the job done in 1 or 2 with their 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers that are perfect for sleeping bags, comforters, and other big items. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
Box Elder County. Got a junk car? Here's where it goes now. DD Auto and Salvage in Logan is stepping up, serving Brigham City, Tremont, Willard, Corinne, Garland, and across northern Utah and southern Idaho. They pay top dollar for vehicles and scrap metal, and they'll haul it away for you. Fast, easy, and you'll get paid. Take the quick drive to Valley View Highway or just make the call, 787-1204. That's 787-1204. DD Auto and Salvage, Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's go-to for junk car cash.
Photographers, take your skills to the next level with Bank of Utah's My Utah Photo Contest. Submit up to 3 original color photos of what Utah is to you. First place wins $500 and their photo featured on a billboard and Bank of Utah's annual calendar. Cash awards and calendar features will also go to second and third place and most votes. Show us what Utah is to you. Go to bankofutah.com/MyUtahContest to enter. That's bankofutah.com/MyUtahContest. Bank of Utah. Member FDIC.
Tired of the daily grind? There's an easier way to get around. Connect Transit takes the stress out of your commute. No gas, no parking, no hassle. Just a warm seat and a quiet ride. Connect Transit. This is how we roll. Visit rideconnectutah.gov.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
Give your family everything. Give them your time. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
The Above and Beyond Salute.
Hello. Officer Bennett, this is Will Feelright. So I wondered if you could use free lunch today.
I could.
Sounds like you deserve it. Someone had contacted us and said that you're an amazing police officer, and we like to team up with Firehouse Subs every week to recognize people for going above and beyond. And so we've got a $40 gift card for you.
I'll be hot dog. That's awesome.
It's people like you that make this valley such a great place to live.
Well, thanks, buddy. I sure do appreciate it.
The Above and Beyond Salute on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. It's our spotlight on Logan Schools. We do this each month with Superintendent Frank Schofield, and he chooses a different guest to come in and talk about a different aspect of life and education and planning and development inside the Logan City School District, from elementary schools to high schools and middle schools in between. So I'm excited that this week we're really kind of digging into a foundational topic of education and human development within the K through 12 school system, which is the idea of social work being a part of this, understanding development, understanding communication, understanding how young people experience different events in their life differently than adults do, which unfortunately we tend to try and force them to deal with it as an adult, which isn't always helpful. Our guest here alongside Superintendent Frank Schofield again is Tami Curtis. She is a clinical assistant professor at Utah State University with a specialty in social work, clinical social work with individuals, couples, families, trauma, resilience, school social work, and more. We're also talking about the documentary playing at the Utah Theater tonight called Resilience. This is a documentary that is focused on a known, scientifically proven connection, the biology of stress and the science of hope, the subtitle of the film. So, and Tami, during the news break there, you said you wanted to get back to something that we kind of touched on when we were discussing how, what social workers have learned through research and studying human development, especially in young people in the schools, and applying that. We talked a little bit about connection, and you wanted to delve into that more and kind of define what does that look like?
Yeah, thank you. So this is a researcher that you've probably all heard about. She's written several books, and she's pretty well known. Her name's Brene Brown. And what she did in her research is she dug down to find out what are the components that create these concepts. And she looked at connection. And what she found is that connection is when you feel seen, heard, and valued.
Okay.
And if we want to connect with the kids in our lives, with people in our lives, we've got to focus on how do we help them feel seen, heard, and valued. So it really comes down to those listening skills, taking time, especially in a day of technology when it kind of rules our world.
Yeah.
Talking as parents, what we model for our kids, can we unplug and put our phones down so that we can connect? Can we make eye contact? Can we greet people by name and get to know something about them and then remember that if possible, right?
Yeah.
And so really that's how we dial into how can we create connection in our schools? How can we create connection in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, helping people feel seen, heard, and valued?
And it's fascinating to me, the idea of connection on this level, because we're not talking, getting to know every intimate detail of every classmate or every teacher, getting to know every intimate detail of every student. Right. An example that was used once, if you go to a gym, there are a lot of regulars, and you'll talk to them every day. Sometimes that's more than you talk to your own parents or family. But you don't know their last name. You don't know where they live. You don't need to know any of these things. But you feel a connection to them because when you run into each other, you say hi, you ask how your day is going, a sincere conversation happens, and then you move on with your workout. It could be that simple. Mm-hmm. Also fascinating to me, we don't lose this need as adults. The need to be – you talk to anyone who absolutely hates their job, and you'll find out it comes down to a lack somewhere in being heard, being seen, and being valued, right?
Right.
So this doesn't go away when you graduate high school or turn 21, which should make it easier for us to understand when dealing with young people. But it's still a challenge, right?
Yeah, I think so, especially when, I think we live a busy life. Our lives look very different today, I think, than they did 10, even 20 more so 20 years ago. We're available 24/7. We're expected to be available 24/7. We have access to more information than we've ever had access to, and it creates a busyness that isn't always the most healthy for that human connection.
Okay. That's a great question coming in from a listener here, which gets us back to approaching this as creating an environment, not necessarily working as a counselor with each individual student. But along those lines, listener says, what do you do with a child that wants to be invisible? But I assume that gets us back to trauma in some way, right?
Yeah, I think so. It would start with, when we talk about what does social work look like in schools, there's different levels of that. We call them tiers, tiered support. So there's tier 1, there's tier 2, there's tier 3. And historically, social workers, I think, were primarily used at the tier 3 level, which would be more of those individual supports. So, the student isn't coming to school, or they're really struggling with this, or this happened, and so let's have them see the social worker. And that still exists, but what we've done is we've expanded. That was what I found when I went to schools, is that's a firefighter model. That's always us accessing the crisis once it's happened. But how do we prevent the crisis from occurring in the first place? And so I was very invested in getting upstream that way too. So how do we proactively, again, create that environment? And that's a very tier 1 thing. A tier 1 is creating that safe space, which is where wellness rooms come in. Prior to my involvement with wellness rooms, they were kind of being used as a tier 3 option. And my take on that was, this needs to be a tier 1 option. This needs to be available to everyone, so we can normalize emotion and we can teach self-regulation to everyone, because this is a human skill that we all need to be successful.
So tier 3, in this situation, tier 3 would be a student who's become so emotionally dysregulated, they're lashing out in class, and now the school enters into a disciplinary response. And as part of that disciplinary response, the student gets sent to another room, and it's not an emotional support wellness approach. It's, you can't be here, so we're going to send you someplace else. So it took on a much more punitive feel. But when Tami says
compounds things, right?
Yeah, it compounds it. So when she talks about tier 3, we're talking about the emotions have already resulted in behavior that now ends up resulting in a punitive response.
Okay, this is. I would also assume that in any type of work with a stated goal, it's in this type of work, it's hard to set metrics for success, right? Because again, you're trying to create an environment, but this is an environment where, for example, if you're working with a third grade, a grade school, and you're focused on maybe the third graders in that school, you won't know if the work took effect until 10 years later, right?
Right.
And that's what made this a challenge to understand in the first place.
I think so. And I also think that's why it hasn't been prioritized. If you look at our government and how funding is allocated. They don't really fund prevention because of that reason. They want immediate results. If you think about the lawmakers, they have a certain period of time and they have a certain agenda, things that they hope to work on. And if they can't see the outcomes, then that's not something they're probably very interested in. Makes sense. Prevention, it is the long-term lens. It is, I want to see how this student is doing at 16 and at 20 and at 30, right? I'm invested in this human for the long haul. And I think that's the key for me in social work. I feel like we invest in human capital. And when we invest in human capital, I feel like everything else takes care of itself.
Sure.
Because going back to the kiddo that might feel invisible at school, I want to know how come. Is that coming from a place of trauma, or is that coming from I've never been accepted in my peers, or if I want to be invisible, what is there been rejection? You know, what has been the culprit there that's kind of created that, and then we can help work on that, right, by creating that safe space, destigmatizing all mental health, because we all have mental health that we need to be minding all of the time.
Sure.
And that wellness room is that space where kids can learn that and learn skills that help them cope with these challenges. And then also, you know, you talked about measuring. We do measure. And one way we measure is we ask kids how they're feeling. They actually have to label the emotion that they're feeling in the moment to help with that emotional intelligence.
Oh, interesting.
And then we go a step further and we say, and how does your body feel? Because our body is the big signal of how we're doing it. We all can relate probably to having butterflies in our tummy or feeling...
I was going to say, it usually starts with, someone will always reference their stomach, right?
Yeah, I'm really
my
feeling...
stomach is upset. My stomach is, yeah.
Right, or
and
cold hands, hot hands, or tension, right? Your body knows before your brain, I think, how you're really feeling. And we really want to teach kids that, how to notice that. Pay attention to how your body feels in this moment, because that's going to be a good indicator of how you're feeling. And so we tie those things together, your nervous system, your level of regulation, and your emotion. Sure. And that increases their emotional intelligence. It helps them get more skilled at identifying early on, and then they can use those coping skills so they don't get dysregulated. They don't get to that point of crisis.
Again, something a lot of us of certain age groups didn't pick up until adulthood, you know, getting out of toxic situations or away from toxic people, or that's honestly fascinating, the idea of teaching kids this in first, second, third grade. Our guest here in the studio again, Frank Schofield, superintendent of Logan Schools and clinical assistant professor at Utah State University, Tami Curtis, who is a clinical social work expert, if you will, with working with individuals, couples, and families, researching the effects of trauma on our lives in general and how resilience can be built even at a young age. She's the coordinator of school social work for the Logan District, and we'll keep this conversation going right after this.
Here's Chad, the lawn doctor, with a tip for your lawn. The way you water your lawn makes a big difference. Water restrictions and costs have both increased over the years. The lawn doctor offers a popular service to help keep your lawn green and healthy while watering less. By adding our HydroGuard service to your lawn care plan, it will help reduce your watering time by up to 1 day a week, saving you both water and money this summer.
Fertilizer, weed, and pest control. Call the lawn doctor at 753-LAWN or go to lawndoctor.com.
Cache County has had 5 county attorneys in 5 years. That's not normal, and it's not good for our county. I'm Brett Chambers, running to restore stability and experienced leadership to the county attorney's office. I've represented victims of sexual abuse all the way to the Utah Supreme Court. I'm endorsed by over 38 local attorneys, prosecutors, public defenders, and every practice area in between. On June 23rd, I'm asking for your vote. God bless America, and God bless Cache County.
Paid for by the committee to elect Brett Chambers.
The Murdoch Auto Team has been part of Utah's automotive fabric for over 100 years, a century of building a name you can trust.
And it's been a privilege for the Murdoch family to grow alongside this community. We are so proud to have served our friends and neighbors for generations.
Now we're carrying that same commitment forward as we head to a new horizon, driving together into a bigger, brighter future.
You've got to come and see us at any of our 10 locations across the Wasatch Front or online at murdochautoteam.com.
When it comes to your next vacation, you deserve an unforgettable experience. At Morris Columbus Travel, our expert advisors help you make the most of your time so you get the best value while focusing on what matters the most. From family cruises to luxury escapes, we handle all the details so you can enjoy the journey. Morris Columbus Travel. We do all the work so you have all the fun.
Morris Columbus.
Constantly sneezing, having itchy eyes, or runny nose? It's allergy season. This is Dr. Tyson Brown with Budge Clinic's Allergy and Immunology team. We can help you get the relief you need. Having the only board-certified allergist in the Valley, Budge Allergy Clinic offers allergy testing, allergy shots, and treatment, and much more. Call the clinic and book your appointment today, 435-266-4735. That's 435-266-4735, or search Budge Allergy Clinic for details.
Dad, I picked up your pills, made your lunch, and your laundry is done.
When you care for a loved one, you take care of everything. But are you taking care of yourself? Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. If the Strait of Hormuz opens as scheduled sooner rather than later, how soon would gas prices come down and our oil reserves get replenished? Also, is investing in space the next frontier? Venture capitalists and others are reportedly embracing space startups, and what it's like to have children when you're older than 40. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Just a bit from the trailer of the documentary film that will play at the Utah Theater tonight, Resilience, the Biology of Stress and the Science of Hope. Here in the studio with us discussing this as it's applied in classrooms and in schools throughout the Logan District. We have with us Superintendent Frank Schofield and Tami Curtis, Clinical Assistant Professor at Utah State University and coordinator of the Logan Schools Social Work Program. This is honestly been a fascinating conversation, and I'm sure for parents out there listening, maybe a little overwhelming in their role in all of this, and maybe an unfair question with just 3.5 minutes left here. But what is the parent's role in this? Does this just take us back to communication, talking with teachers at the school, talking with your child, keeping that line of communication open?
Yeah, I do. I think that's a big part of it. Building that connection. Parents are busy. Parents have a lot of responsibility, and sometimes I think that can take over the priority of really showing up and being there consistently for your child, and myself included. Especially parents who work, they're juggling a lot of responsibilities, and depending on how many kids you have, and how many hobbies you have, and how many things you're signed up for. So I think it's just taking that time to slow down and connect with your kiddos. One of the things that we talk about is if you can spend at least 15 minutes a day one-on-one with your child, just talking about what they want to talk about, asking them questions, and not just the to-dos, not like, the big list of all the chores and all the homework and all the thing, but really talking about what was exciting today, what brought them joy today, what are they grateful for, what are they looking forward to. Really getting to the heart of what, discovering who these people are. And really, I think when we can do that as parents, it helps us to connect them to those hobbies that they might not have discovered yet because we didn't really ask. I think there's connection activities that families can do. A family dinner has shown in the SHARP survey, which is the Student Health and Risk Prevention study that we do every other year in grades 6 through 12, we found a correlation between the number of family dinners and the level of depression kids were reporting.
Really?
Right. Isn't that...
Again, back to connection, right? Being a part of a group.
Yes. And that the more family dinners that people reported having each week, the less levels of depression kiddos were reporting. And so taking time at dinner, growing up in my family, my kids, what we would do is something called high-low hope. what was your high for the day? What was your low for the day? What's your hope for tomorrow? A lot of people like to do peach and pit or roses and thorns. Things like that help you connect with your family, connect with each other. And I think when you model that in the home, I think it also sets them up for success to then go out and make friends and be more tuned in to what makes a good friend. And can I look for the kiddo that's sitting alone? And, maybe can I expand beyond just the people that I know really well, just the kids in my neighborhood that I am familiar with.
Fascinating stuff. And again, all of it being presented as part of a documentary that will be made available online eventually. But it is screened by request anytime you want to. I've put a link actually to that on our Facebook page. Thanks again for their time, Frank Schofield and Tami Curtis, and the importance of connection in your child's development and education. And something really important to focus on this summer while the kids are spending more time at home, so that when they go back to the school year in the fall, they can have be a little ahead. So check it out. I've linked to all of this on our Facebook page. Thanks again to Frank and Tami, to our